Hello, wrestling fans! NXT Vengeance Day 2023 was a very good show. I hadn't watched the last two big NXT events, which were Halloween Havoc and Deadline. So I haven't really kept up with NXT. But this was a very good show. We started out right actually during the during the pre-show. It was announced that the steel cage main event, that Shawn Michaels announced that the steel cage title match would only end by pinfall or submission, not by escaping the cage. But the event itself kicks off with whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, kicks off with Dijak challenging Wes Lee for the North American Championship. Uh, in the early going, Wes hit a Hurricane Rana from the apron. West jumped from the apron. Dijak caught him and gave him a DVD on the floor. Death Alley Driver on the floor. um, Back in the ring, Dijak did a throwaway suplex, which was a suplex I remember where Greg the Hammer Valentine used to use, and instead of going down with his opponent, he would just throw him away. West started making a comeback. He eventually, after a failed attempt, he used a stalling German suplex on Dijak. I believe it was a backdrop on the apron. Dijak did to Wes. There was a dive to the floor. Back in the ring, Wes hit a rewind Rana to counter the torture rack into the go to sleep, or the knee strike. Wes Lee used it looked like he was going for like a snowplow, and he hooked where he grabbed the leg, or like a fisherman suplex. Dijak kicked out of that. Dijak hit a choke slam. Dijak tried that rack into the go to sleep again, but Lee managed to land on his feet. Dijak hit a big boot. West kicked out of that. Dijak hit a super kick and a lariato. Lee kicked out of that. Dijak went for a super bomb from the top rope, but West countered with a Hurricane Rana. It looked like something went wrong there. And then he hit a twisting dive off the top rope, and Dijak kicked out of that. Eventually, Dijak avoided dive, causing Lee to hit the barrier that surrounds the ring. He grabs a chair from ringside, puts Lee in it, and he was gonna do a moonsault, but then I don't know what happened. Tony D'Angelo and all apologies, Stacks. That's who it is. That's his nickname, Stacks. I don't know if they've been hanging with Dijak or being a pain in his ass, but Dijak hit a moonsault, and that winds up landing on D'Angelo and Stacks, and Dijak tells him to stay out of his business. Back in the ring, Lee hits with some kind of backflip kick and pins Dijak to retain the North American Championship. Up next was the Women's Tag Team Championship match, as we saw Katana Chance, or is it Chase? Chance, and oh boy, can't even read my handwriting all of a sudden. My God, Kaden Carter defending the women's tag team titles against Kiana James and Fallon Henley, accompanied the ring by Josh Briggs, and I forgot his partner's name. All apologies. The champs were using double team offense at the beginning of the match. Kiara hit a spine buster on Carter. Carter eventually retired with an ace crusher on James from the apron to the floor. Chance with a with a Super Hurricane Rana off of Carter's shoulders as she was sitting on the top rope on Henley. The end came when Henley had pinned Carter with a rolling prawn hold, but James held, I believe it was Carter's legs down for the 3 count, and Kiara James and Fallon Henley became the new Women's Tag Team Champions. Next up was 2 out of 3 falls match as Apollo Crews did battle with Carmelo Hayes, coming to the ring by Trick Williams. In the first fall, there was some mat work, slaps were exchanged, Apollo with a German suplex, then he hit a moonsault off the apron. Carmelo eventually took over in the ring. Apollo gave 2 German suplex and a released Northern Lights suplex. Did a superplex on Carmelo, who was standing on the apron. Carmelo eventually took the first fall with the crossface, and Apollo tapped out to it. In the second fall, Apollo hit 3 German suplex and a standing shooting star press. Apollo then hit a flipping, destroyer-type DDT. Apollo with a Death Valley driver. Trick Williams removed the turnbuckle off the top, turnbuckle pad off the top turnbuckle. Trick tries to use a chair, but Dabba-Kato, who we remember as Commander Aziz, he pulls Trick off the apron. Carmelo ends up winning with a top rope leg drop and wins the match in 2 straight falls. After the match, Dabba-Kato hugs Apollo, but then he attacks him and pretty much put an end to their alliance. I'm surprised that guy still got a job. I mean, another big guy who can't do much in the ring. All apologies. Next up was a 4-way match for the NXT Tag Team Championship, as we saw Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, the New Day, defend the championship against Elton Prince and Kit Wilson, Pretty Deadly. Mark Coffey and Wolfgang, that collectively known as Gallus, and Chase University, Andre Chase and Duke Hudson, accompanied the ring by, apologies, I forgot her name. I don't know if she wrestles often or not. This 4 was a pretty good matchup. Kofi Kingston started out with Elton Prince, gives him a Hurricane Rana. Gallus was working over Kit Wilson for a point. Kofi hit that double leg drop on Pretty Deadly and Mark Coffey. All 3 of them were down. The New Day hit it was Xavier Woods held I forgot who it was. Had him like a backbreaker. Kofi did a top rope stomp. Well, for some reason I wrote down, I was thinking about the old demolition decapitation move, but I decided I wrote demolition top rope stomp. Okay, top rope decapitation? That wasn't enough. Andre Chase had thrown Kofi Kingston. They were going out on the top rope, and Kofi landed on a pile of the other participants down on the floor. Andre gives superplexes Wilson off the top rope onto the pile of wrestlers, and they're all outside on the floor. Gallus puts I forgot who. Somebody somebody tried to use Vic Joseph and Booker T's commentary table, and I forgot, it didn't happen. Then Pretty Deadly, in a hilarious spot, they put the commentary table back in place. And when they got back to the ring, Booker T said, "I appreciate that." And then let's see. Eventually, Gallus put Hudson through the commentary table. Back in the ring, Andre Chase puts the figure 4 on Mark Coffey. Wolfgang broke it up with a senton from the top rope. Gallus hit a top rope move on Xavier Woods, and a double team move, not a top rope move, and pinned him to become the new NXT Tag Team Champion. So I take it the New Day is, I guess it's back to the main roster for them. Okay. Next up was the triple threat match for the Women's Championship as the remaining members of Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and... Why is this so much? Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, both in the unfamiliar role as opponents in a three-way with Roxanne Perez for the Women's Championship. Roxanne eventually pulled a trick out of the late Owen Hart's playbook by doing an acrobatic top rope move, but she did something else instead of the hip toss. She dived on Dolan out on the floor. It was Roxanne had a crossface on Jane. Dolan hit the STO on Perez on the apron. There was the toxic dissension as the two ladies were arguing. Eventually started butting heads. Jane hit the running knee on Perez, but she kicked out of that. Perez hit the Pop Rocks, which is the Code Red Powerbomb, on Dolan on the floor. The end came when Roxanne hit super Pop Rocks on JC Jane because they were going out on the top rope, and Roxanne kicked Dolan off the top rope onto a table that Dolan and Jane had placed on the floor. But Roxanne retained the Women's Championship with Super Pop Rocks on Jane. And then it was time for the main event, which saw Grayson Waller challenge Bron Breakker for the Heavyweight Championship. I've never been impressed with Grayson Waller from the beginning, let me tell you that, folks. Waller attacks before Breakker even gets inside the cage, and eventually they get in there and the bell rings and they're underway. Breakker hit a belly suplex. He hit his father's old power slam, and even the top rope bulldog. Breakker missed a spear attempt and hits the cage. Waller hit like a version of the kill switch, but it was like he jumped in midair and caught him. Unless he messed up, I don't know. Breakker eventually hits a top rope Hurricane Rana. Waller countered a midair attack with a knee strike, hit an elbow from the top rope. Eventually Waller gives a I think he hit I don't know if he hit an ace crusher or not. Eventually Waller climbed was at the top of the cage, and Breakker eventually got up and caught up with him and superplexed him off the top of the cage. He hit a spear, and Breakker tells Waller, "You want to talk trash on social media?" And he said, "This is my dog pound." Then Breakker hits the ropes again, spears Waller a second time, and pins him to retain the championship. Breakker climbs to the top of the steel cage to celebrate the victory. Out came Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. So I don't know. Maybe that right there may have pinpointed the main event for Stand and Deliver on Saturday, April 1st. But as they were going off the air, Vic Joseph was saying that is Carmelo another roadblock in Bron Breakker's reign. So because I understand that I think in one of the Tuesday nights in March, that show is going to be titled Roadblock, which is the show they do, NXT has right before Stand and Deliver, which is a part of WrestleMania weekend. Well, many people have said NXT is not what it used to be, and other stuff like that. Gotta have a drink. But, sure, it's not as, it may not be as great as it once was based on the roster, but hey, it beats through 3 hours of Raw on Monday nights, I'll say that, folks. Definitely with this whole, obviously some things, maybe some wheels are already in motion for Stand and Deliver. I'm guessing, because out of everybody in NXT right now, the only person I see taking the belt from Bron Breakker is Carmelo Hayes. And maybe that's what's probably going to happen. Be interesting to see where things go with the men and women's tag team championship scenario. I'm sure, I'm guessing JC Jason and Gigi Dolan are going to go at it one-on-one at Stand and Deliver. And probably Apollo Crews will now face his now former friend Dabba-Kato, formerly known as Commander Aziz. I'm sure there'll be other stuff too, but I think they had a pretty good show, and sure can't wait for Stand and Deliver in April.